This is finished, but I haven't. I just sometimes I take a jog. I'll do a jog. You know, I got to do that more because since I'm not at home working, I have to. I can't do the side planks and bridges and reverse clamshell exercises that I do. Anyway, started this on this bridge. It's a neat bridge. You can stuff there. Anyway, I was kind of overthinking, I think, and it's a little off the cuff, I guess, but want to, I guess, just mention an example of. I have to get my bearings here. Lord help me. Because yesterday I talked about saying, having Christ's perspective, trying to have the right orientation to things of this life, and knowing that, trusting that Jesus knows all men and knows what's in man. The sun came out at just the right time, didn't it? And just to add to that, just watch that video because I don't want to. I'm not really in the mode of thought right now to go over that, but I just want to bring up this example of how you can let certain comments or something from somebody get to you. I in 2019, I think it was 2019, 2018. There's a train coming up here. It might be loud. I wanted to apply for seminary and I did so at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School in Deerfield, Illinois. It might be a little loud for a moment, but I don't know if it's better lighting here. That's a little weird. But I applied and I don't have an undergrad degree, but they still accepted me. It's a master's program, and remember meeting with the professor of preaching. He was like the head of the so-called preaching department. And I have my opinions about such matters, such things. I can get into that in another video, but basically, let's see, maybe I'll just stay here like this. I guess I could show this train coming by. Yeah, it's the way it goes. This is suburbs. That engine's going to be loud in a moment, so I don't want to talk over that. Back to this illustration, I talked to this man, and he's nice and all. Ended up praying for him at the end of their meeting. We both prayed, and I prayed for him because he was basically retiring soon. And it was ended it well with the prayer. But he was curious about the tattoo on my tattoos on my fingers. You notice my left hand and with that black ink on it. And I just remember I mentioned something like I got that obviously when I was not a believer. Not that it's evil to get that; it's a conscience issue in some cases. Even though Jeremiah the prophet in the Old Testament scriptures spoke against marking yourself, which had to do with not being being like, it had to do with pursuing God in His holiness and being separate from the world. And at that time, they're around the peoples maybe similar to later Pict people, which probably thousands of years later, the Picts, I don't know, but not being wanting to be associated with the so-called pagans of the time. But at any rate, and he just said, "Oh, well, we all have our, some of us have a checkered past." I mean, he said it's just remember him. He said he was well-meaning, I suppose, but it sounded like this kind of smacked of this of ease of acknowledging one's otherness, an ease of acknowledging one's yeah, we all had our bad pasts, we all made mistakes, we all and it if only and I said I was thinking to myself, at least very soon after, is like, well, if you only knew the truth, you would be um, even more disgusted or something. I was just thinking, it's right in line with what I was talking about yesterday. It is worse than you think. If my and this one thing I've said multiple times, I've said it out loud to people. I've not in response to them like confrontationally, but if you only knew the truth, you'd know it's far worse. And that um, if my tattoos were the worst thing about me, I would be, you know, the world's greatest saint or what have you. I would be the greatest man on earth. If my tattoo, which is so visible and such a low hanging fruit for judgment by others, if they're in the flesh, if they're not careful, it's, seeing a tattoo on somebody can trigger one to feel superior if they're so inclined to judge people based on such things. I think about it. If that was the worst thing of my life, I would be um, a great, great holy man. But I know it's worse than that. So, to me, when someone wants to, I just something to think from that. Sorry if it's not as coherent for you, and I'm putting this coherently enough, articulately enough. But you know, again, if someone wants to look at something so superficial, not to say he was making all these judgment calls, but it kind of smacked of just, oh, isn't it easy? It just seemed a little bit easy for him to say, oh, we have our checkered past or whatever. If it was simple as checkers, if only our sinful past were as simple as a checkerboard, we would actually be doing far, far better. But it's more complicated than that. So you might think I'm being sensitive here, but it's just something to think about in light of that passage of John 2, speaking of the sanctified indifference. You know, man is far worse than he knows, and we have to be careful and keep ourselves in check that we don't judge others unrighteously. It could be a huge snare every day. It could be such a temptation for me. It could be a temptation for you in some way. We have to fight against these things. And again, look to Jesus, who is our example, and he's not a cheesy coping strategy crutch for weak thinkers, but he's the example for uh, really a life that is a holy life. And that word doesn't have to be taboo, doesn't have to be scary or highfalutin or holier than thou type of concept. We can pursue holiness, but again, there's context with that. We can't just pursue it based on our own definitions of what that is, but it's a profound separation. Um, so much so that yes, even though our past still can still scream out the tattoos, visible things. Not that it's wrong. I'm just saying for me, it's a thing of my past. And if and anyone who would want to look down on it or something, or it's just it can it's just kind of sad. Don't be that guy who picks the low hanging fruit in order to feel superior, even if it's not a conscious thing. Guard your heart from giving place to such easy modes of self exaltation. Uh, Again, if it only was that easy, but our sin is so can be so deep and self-divisive, um, furthering the wedge between us and our Creator. May we not be superficial lookers and hearers and superficial, listeners, superficial talkers, um, readers, everything. May everything have depth to it. May everything have substance. Even just making coffee, going to the cafe in the morning, whatever. I mean, even the most simple things, may they just be on a bed of, they may all be done on a foundation of thankfulness for God, who is over all things and is created all things for us to enjoy. And may the thoughts of His mercy and grace, Jesus knowing man and what is in man, yet still doing what He's done for us out of that great mercy, that compassion in the midst of our own hopeless suffering. May that wash over our minds and help us to strive in Him for the greater purpose, meaning the greater love, and and in turn, a desire to love others as ourselves.